watching this special series of conversations with global journalists on my YouTube station, Smita Sharma journalist, and I'm in Belgium, in Brussels, for a European Union Connecting Media conference, having very interesting conversations with fellow scribes, because for sure the world has gone completely topsy-turvy, and it's never a dull day for journalists, but also never an easy day for journalists. I'm joined here by JJ Green. He is an American senior journalist, been on the field for decades now, also done a lot of defense reporting. JJ, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing great. Every day above ground is good, and happy about that. It's good to be here with you.
You know, there's a lot of schadenfreude sort of comments going around in South Asia and India. Every time we look at the American journalists all hassled now because of a man called Donald Trump. We're like, hi, welcome to our world. But that said apart, I mean, it's quite scary to see where things are headed to. So how has life changed for you in these past few months?
Well, frankly, they haven't.
Okay.
They've just become busy, more busy. I mean, as you know, as American journalists, we're always busy and we're always all over the place. It's just that right now, the work we do, there are some challenges to how we do what we do at home. But it hasn't changed, one, our objectives. It hasn't changed our commitment to being objective and to being fair and to being essentially ethical. But we do have some challenges at home in terms of how we, what we must do to continue to do that kind of work and to stay fair and true to our core values. But it hasn't slowed us down at all, as you know.
Some challenges would be an understatement, no? I mean, given the fact that, yes, I know it drives home the entire purpose of journalism so much more stronger, but also the fact that, you know, for the longest, journalists across the world every time were looking up to the freedom of press in America, to the First Amendment rights that you had. But then you do have a president who is now behaving like a monarch, who's behaving like a dictator, which suddenly opens you up to so much more challenges perhaps, which you've not felt in a way that rest of the world or parts of journalists in other parts have felt and faced.
Well, let me just be clear about something. We are still free. We still are dedicated to the same goals and the same work we did. President Trump being president does not change any of that, and none of us has stopped doing what it is that we do, and doing it in a free and fair way and an objective way. None of that's changed at all. What has changed, again, as I said, it's, there are some challenges and some issues that may make it difficult to do what we do, but it's not. One of the things about journalism, and you know this from your situation, is that when the bell rings, you answer the bell.
Yes.
And that is absolutely what American journalists are doing. Freedom of the press, democracy is not dead. It's not going anywhere. It's not over. It's just a situation where we're facing something that you and so many others have faced in the past, and it's not something that's going to change journalism in America. There's a momentary scenario here where people are wondering, are you going to survive and are you going to continue? Yes, we're continuing. This is not going to stop American journalism from being what it is. We still represent everything that we've always represented. But what this does is presents the challenge that we haven't had to face. But I'm happy to say that my colleagues are stepping up to it.
But, and I have a couple of follow-up questions here, beginning with, of course, from the Trump first administration. It would be unfair perhaps to only pin it to that administration. There has been a rise with the rise of the far-right governments across the world. Polarization has increased. How polarized are American newsrooms today? Have you lost out on relationships? Have you lost out on journalists who you identified as friends over many years?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I was one of about 80 journalists that walked out of the Pentagon, and I've known those people for 20 years. Some of the people who decided that, okay, what was being asked of them was okay, to each his own. But the key point to make here is that the newsrooms are not divided. There is no fight. There is no war between newsrooms.
That sounds heavenly. It's not something we see in India.
But this is the thing that news organizations in the States have done for many years, and this continues to this day. We compete with each other, but we're fair with each other. we share with each other, and we do everyday things to help each other. And if anything, the challenges that we're facing now has brought us closer together.
Tell our viewers who are not aware of what really happened with that Pentagon document that you were expected to sign and 80 journalists refused to do so. What was at stake?
Well, basically, it was a document that essentially suggested if we signed it, that we would not report anything that came out of the Pentagon without getting the Pentagon's approval of that reporting before we did it. Well, we would not seek their approval before or after.
So you would have to seek
Ever.
their consent if you're wanting to investigate a story or look at a Pentagon paper?
Something along those lines, but any information we got from the Pentagon, we'd have to get clearance from them to report it, and that's never going to happen. And that's the reason why people didn't sign it. So if you did sign it, and this is the dilemma, and to me it really wasn't a dilemma, if you sign it, basically you sign away your credibility, you sign away your reputation, and you sign away the trust that you've built over many years with sources and with the audience. And that's just not something that I was going to ever do. And the other folks that refused to sign it are in the same boat.
So what happens considering that you haven't signed it? Have you lost out on access?
The only thing that I've lost is a photograph that's on the Pentagon briefing wall of all the journalists that cover it. That photo is not there, and the photos of all the rest of us who did it are no longer there. The access does not reside in a building. Access is not in that place. Access is trust, accountability, reputation. And this is the thing that, built over years with sources and with the audience, remains viable, and it will continue to remain. So that trust is still intact, and that access is still intact. And I walked out of the Pentagon, we walked out of the Pentagon, but we didn't walk away.
Yeah, that's an important, I think, point to make, that walking out, taking a position is not the same as walking away from that responsibility of still digging for stories, still trying to find access, just through different means and sources. You know, it's very interesting because you come from the world's oldest democracy, I come from the world's largest democracy, and we have, of course, had a majoritarian government in power since 2014 that has really clamped down in a lot of ways when it comes to freedom of press. We recently had a moment of solidarity amongst women journalists when we stood up, because the Taliban foreign minister came to New Delhi and decided to do a press conference only for the men. There were questions that the male journalists should have walked out of the room or not, and we were very critical of our own government for having allowed the Taliban, which is not yet recognized, to have come onto our soil and have let this discriminatory approach happen. But mercifully, I mean, you know, we kind of made ourselves heard, and Muttaqi was forced to do another round of press conference, this time with men and women inside the room. These things count every day, every step of the way it counts. How are you looking at the situation in America today when it comes to the freedom, the culture of opposition, even within the Republicans, say, for instance?
Well, let me just say this first. It's not lost on me and us what you did in India and what you do and what you've done and gone through since 2014. It's not lost on us, the struggle. And you have set the bar, you have maintained it, and you know, a lot of people look at America and say, well, America's done this, America's that. But America is only as much as America is. You know what I'm saying? At the moment that you're looking at it, what you've done and what you continue to do resonates, and I just want to thank you for that. In terms of dealing with what we're dealing with inside the U.S. right now, it's not something any of us asked for. And it's not something that may go away overnight. It's something that may be with us for a while, but it's also something that's going to make us think long and hard about how much we need to do, how far we need to go to make sure democracy survives in the U.S. And media, a free and fair press, is a key part of democracy. And you know, this is 2025. There are all sorts of challenges that are coming, new, some of them are old and reincarnated and reinvigorated, but there are constantly going to be challenges, and a part of it has to do with the evolution of technology. But one thing that does not change is the commitment that resides up here. And in here, we've got it, you've got it, and there's so many other people.
Okay, I don't know what's happening in Brussels.
It's
This
been
is
a lot
the
of police. I've
third
seen a lot.
interview I'm doing today. You can watch those other conversations too. Every time, it's almost a dramatic entrance of a Belgian police car.
I have
somehow
seen
into
Belgian police cars.
One wouldn't expect this much of action
No.
happening in Brussels.
I did not expect it. Every couple of hours, whenever I go out, I see police everywhere. But to finish this point though, this is such an amazing thing that you're doing, focusing on this, the challenges of media right now, because
Yeah.
people need to know and understand, if she didn't exist and other free media didn't exist, then the world would not know what's really happening. And that's the honest to goodness truth.
We're all doing our job, documenting the first drafts of history, witnessing them, and then I think it's important for us to do whatever role we are assigned to do for upholding of the democratic institutions. But just the last 2-3 questions, JJ. One, there was this big moment of hope that came out of the entire Jimmy Kimmel episode, where the networks kind of tried showing him down, bending to pressure, whether it was ABC and Disney, and people spoke up.
Yeah.
The fellow stand-up comedians spoke up, the fellow satirists spoke up in one voice. He had to be reinstated.
Yeah.
Did that moment give you a lot of hope?
Absolutely, because there isn't just that hope. There isn't that's just the only moment where that's happening. It's happening in so many smaller places. That kind of solidarity, that kind of awakening, that kind of understanding that this is a bridge too far, that we're not going to accept this, we're not going to go for this. And this is happening in so many places around the country. That moment with Jimmy Kimmel really sent the message to America and the world, I suppose, that you may elect who you want to elect, you may put in place the kind of things that you think should be, I guess, the law of the land in terms of executive orders, etc., but you still have to answer to the American public, the American people. Media is still a huge factor. It's the fourth estate in the United States, and it is still a huge factor. And there are people who doubted that, but this episode with Jimmy Kimmel restored that faith. It reasserted that presence, and it just left little doubt that when people get together and work together, solidarity, things can change. And these networks, they got the message.
That act of resistance by itself is so important, even if it does not always lead to a positive outcome or a concrete outcome. Do you see, I know it's a long time away, there are many a slip between the cup and the lip. There are midterm polls next year in a couple of months, but Donald Trump is already making all kinds of noise about a third term in office. Is that a reality, a concern that you're looking at?
Not at all. The Speaker of the House said yesterday that that's not going to happen. But the Constitution said many years ago that would not happen. After Franklin Roosevelt, that would not happen. I do not see that happening. One of the things that I do see, though, happening is this thing that we call in the disinformation world, flooding the zone. There's a lot of nonsense that's being pushed out there to scare people, to confuse people, to get people tired of, just hearing these kinds of things, and to make them just quit, just to give up. And that obviously I think is one of those things, because look, I know that President Trump being elected again surprised a lot of people, but it was a free and a fair election. But what's not going to happen is the election process being turned upside down on its head, or even being just destroyed. It will not happen.
Okay, let's hope so. Just a final question, JJ. And keeping in mind in India today, we have extremely polarized news media. We have traditional newsrooms that are completely pliant with the government's voice, mostly in television. Print still offers some hope. A lot of people like me who have worked with traditional newsrooms for decades have moved away to the independent media space. In America also there has been a crisis of credibility over the decades. When you look back all the way up to the Iraq War, that docu-film of Control Room, the Al Jazeera versus the CNN narrative, or even today when you look at the coverage of Israel-Gaza war, for instance, the different narratives that are peddled, do you feel the traditional iconic newsrooms do have a credibility crisis? The fact that, a Fox News is actually watched by people, is it just a political reflection of the day? Or the fact that somewhere people have stopped trusting traditional media as much?
I don't think so. What I think is people have gotten tired of trying to choose, trying to figure out what's true and what's not. And, they recognize that even though they're tired, now is the time more than ever to put a little extra effort into making sure that they know the truth. People recognize that there is a crisis of credibility, but it's not, the credibility of the newsrooms is intact. It's the credibility of some of the voices that you hear in certain places that may turn up on some of these networks there's no credibility there. I'll put it to you this way. I'm not singling out Fox News or any other news outlet at this point for any other reason except to say what took place at the Pentagon when these journalists, we walked out. Fox News was with us walking out. The Washington Times was with us walking out. Newsmax was with us walking out. So those news media have and still do from time to time present opinions that many consider right-leaning opinions, and that's their right. It's okay. But when it came down to this whole idea of saying, okay, no, I won't do anything unless you say it's okay, they walked out with the rest of us. So there is no competition in that sense. There is no fighting in that sense. The only thing that people are in journalism fighting for is audience, but there's a respect there for the business, and it goes both ways. So where we are right now, newsrooms are going to survive. People know that, and we still have our audiences, and they're going to be there. They recognize what this was.
That's the perfect segue to my final question. I mean, between two of us, we have had half a century of journalistic experience in an era where reports after reports are pointing to the fact that if you look at the younger lots, the 15 to 25 age groups, they're all getting in their news today from platforms like TikTok. So when you're competing with content creators, with TikTokers and the different AI tools, generative AI, how is it changing your way of storytelling, your style of journalism?
Not at all, because I'm a traditional journalist, but I also have social media and I also create content. And that whole thing to me suggests one very solid thing is we all have to collaborate.
Yeah.
If we're going to, one, do what it is that we want to do with our media, with our content creation or whatever, there's room for all of us in the tent.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do this job, to serve the public with the information that they need, the truth that they need, by trying to divide and keep us separated. So we need to collaborate, and right. I'm all for it.
This is a collaboration happening right here on the footpath of Brussels. Beautiful background, lovely in fact weather, not raining today, so it's less freakish. But yeah, I think what is very clear is as journalists, of course we have to reinvent ourselves. Of course we have to think about how we do our storytelling to be able to reach larger audiences. But the only thing that cannot be compromised with, no matter what circumstance we are working on, that's our responsibility of speaking truth to power, the old school values of verification of news information and of asking questions to those in positions of authority to not make them feel very comfortable about what they're doing.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter whether you're a content creator or a legacy journalist or who you want to be. If you want to do the real business of passing truthful information on to your audience, no matter what venue or genre you're working in, you've got to do it the right way. This is the right way.
Thank you so much, AJ. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
So do check out the other conversations with a senior Bangladeshi editor and also with, of course, a Syrian, Armenian, young war journalist based in Beirut. Thanks for tuning in. Press the bell icon notification for fresh content alert. Take care and goodbye.